Hey y'all, good morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast. Today we're going over basic watercraft. This is part of the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast series. Anyone can fish for beginners or for people that are getting back into fishing and trying to revamp their skills, get back into the game, start getting on bigger fish and more fish, and hopefully having fun while doing it. If you haven't been here before, my name's Anthony. Welcome to the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast, hosted by Yak Shore Outdoors over here on YouTube. Uh, this is a live stream episode. We do this every weekend. Uh, it varies from weekend to weekend based on work schedules. It can be Saturday or Sunday. It'll always be at 7 a.m. And yeah, so hope everybody's having a good day. Hope everybody's getting a chance to go out there and go do some fishing soon if you haven't already. And yeah, let's get into it. All right. So when it comes to basic watercraft, there are a couple of things we have to keep in mind, and that is good morning, Rhonda. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Big Slim 91. Good morning. Good morning. Sorry for being a little late on the notifications. Glad you guys can make it in. It has been a very busy, very busy week. Uh, Work has been absolutely insane. The heat has been absolutely killer. Hope you guys are staying cool whatever part of the country you're in. I know it's hot everywhere right now. Um, and like I said, I hope you guys, if you are able to fish, you're getting on some fish. If you're not getting on fish, I hope you're at least staying cool and comfortable and having a wonderful time. Brandon, good morning. Ugh, it is morning. I'm not okay. So other than fishing, I'm honestly not a morning person. I know that people find that hard to believe. They're always like, "Oh, you're so full of energy, so chipper." No, I love fishing. If it wasn't for that, I promise you, I'd be like, all day for the morning. I'm not a morning person. But talking about fishing, going fishing, all that stuff gets me pumped up. I am not like this for work. Uh, no offense to my job, no offense to my bosses or anything. I'm definitely got to have a cup of coffee, some caffeine, couple hours to wake up kind of guy normally. But I think most people are that way. I've only ever met two um, truly morning people that like no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how they wake up, they're always in a good mood right in the morning, no matter what. Uh, Yeah, it's definitely not me, unless it comes to fishing. So, alright, again, thanks for coming in. This is, I don't even know how many episodes we're in deep now at this point. I think this is 6 or 7. I mean, this is going pretty well. It's hard to believe it's been that many already. Um, if you are watching this on the live stream, I appreciate you guys coming in. If you're watching this on the replay, uh, let me know in the comments below. I put in hashtag replay. And, yeah, I mean, it's something basic watercraft is something that everybody needs to learn. It is something that people who've been fishing for a long time already do inadvertently. Not inadvertently, that's not a good word. They already do it by instinct. It's not something they ever think about. It happens. They've caught fish, they got experience, they know the basics of what they're looking for when it comes to spots, what they're trying to do when they're catching these fish, what they're gonna do in terms of presentation, all that good stuff. But for newer anglers, it's something that's very important because it's not only is it slightly dependent on the species, but it's also, very dependent on a few factors, and those factors, as we'll get into it here in just a second, are gonna be structure, current, and then the pattern. The structure being objects that the fish wanna, live in, the current being the force that changes the way the food, uh, behaves, and then the pattern being the behavioral tendencies of these species of fish you're pursuing, whether it be what they're chasing, whether it be where they're hiding, whether it be the time of year, how active, what time of day, all these various little things. And we'll go into that a little bit more as we go. But the one of the biggest players in this, Dr. Arlinghaus, he's a German professor, he has been studying this for years and putting out this uh, knowledge that he's gained, his data, out to the public people to look at. And his research is done on a private lake, but what he has done, and again, this is in Europe, right? But it is an inland lake, so all the behaviors are very similar. He tagged 4 different species. You got catfish, carp, yellow perch, and flint, which obviously, the Wells catfish is very similar to flatheads here in the States. Carp, they're the same there as they are here. The behaviors are the same. Um, Tench, some people say they compare it to bass. I'm not really 100% sure I agree with that. Um, but they don't really have in my opinion, a really good comparison species over here in the States. But then, the perch, their perch and our perch are extremely similar. Honestly, the only difference truly is the color and the location because obviously they're in Europe and we're in the States. Here we have straight up yellow perch. There they have they're just called perch. They're usually a little greener, in color, but the patterns are almost the behaviors are almost exactly the same. It's actually quite, amazing how similar those species are. But he tagged these 4 species, all of which are predator species, and he tracks them year round, and he shares data with the public. And through his research, he's able to prove things such as when's the best time to fish for these species, where they go at day or night, where they're at certain times of the year, how close or how far they are from shore based on time of year. And I'm gonna go ahead and put his links to his Facebook page and his website, which they are in another language, so there's a little bit of it's gonna be a little difficult possibly to navigate. But he has these data he has in a spot where you can look at it, and it's literally a graphic of the lake. It's got the little spots of the fish, and it literally tracks everything they do. It's pretty amazing how much information you get from it. He literally is able to confirm the whole catfishing at night's better during the summer, but definitely worse in the winter. All the species are more active during daytime in the winter. I mean, all these normal myths, if you will, people talked about these things. He's able to prove and disprove certain ones, which is quite amazing. I mean, you had the basic ones that kind of everybody just accepts that it does prove to you, like the morning bite's almost always there, and then if it's the middle of winter, you're gonna have an early afternoon bite still available. But then obviously again, when it's dark, everything slows down. Even in his data shows that about 2 AM, nothing happens, like, literally everything stops. Quite, quite insane how much you can see from watching these, and granted, again, these are European species, but they behave very similar to a lot of North American species. You just have to kind of figure out which one you're pursuing and then look at that data for the European equivalent, basically, and by doing that, you can really, really, really gain some insight not only where to be, but what time to be there. And then again, certain things like his data also shows that in the spring and fall, especially, you don't have to fish far from the bank in order to catch catfish or carp. They're literally within feet of the bank. And again, some people know this, some people know about this for years. But again, as a beginner angler, it's something you may not understand, recognize, or have been told. And so it's something that you have to learn, and using his data is just another tool for you to be able to do that. And but yeah, so like I said, his stuff's gonna be in the description of this podcast for you guys. If you do want to check it out, again, it is another language, so it may be a little difficult to find it. Once you do, it's very obvious. It looks just like a little lake. It's gonna have 4 colored dots: black, red, yellow, and black, red, yellow. I don't know what the other color was. There's 4 colors, 1 for each species. They're all doing their thing. And that data even has stuff like, it'll say what the date was that it was recorded, what the, uh, wind direction was, what moon phase it was, all this stuff. I mean, it's literally got everything. So you can literally kinda do your own little study on whatever aspect of fishing you want based on those, factors. And it's pretty impressive. But the next thing we're talking about structure. Structure does not have to be complicated. A simple breakup of the surroundings is all that is needed. It is one of the things I was showing it is that if you take a bucket and you put a piece of black electrical tape on the bottom of it. Just a single strip, Doesn't even have to go across the bucket, literally start from the center of the bucket and go out to one side, just one little strip. If you put minnows in that bucket, they're gonna hover around that stripe. Um, it's just another thing to prove that having a breakup in structure is all that it takes, and this translates directly into any kind of species of fish when it comes to structure in a lake, river, or pond, or even the ocean for that matter. I mean, just having a breakup in the norm for something for them to relate to, something for them to hide in, um, it makes a big difference. And, common structures, right? You're gonna have rocks, you're gonna have boulders, you're gonna have underwater trees, weed, uh, gravel beds, contour structure too. I mean, not even just it doesn't even have to be, physical objects like this. It could literally just a change of a hook or a point or, a ledge, it's just a extreme depth change really suddenly. Those can be structures that fish relate to. They could be simpler things too. It could be things such as, like, you hear a lot of people talk about transition lines in bass fishing. If you're going against the shore and it goes from big boulder riprap type rocks to all of a sudden changing to, like, pea gravel or something significantly different, like shale or something, that transition, fish can relate to that too, both bait fishing and predatory fish in terms of ambushing, prey. It's just, again, not something you're gonna know as a beginner angler, right? But just that's something it is something that you can fish. It's a change. Like, if you're or fish for even, you're walking, you're looking over the cast, well, you find this long stretch of and you're walking around, like, I don't know where to cast. Well, then you see the in rock or whatever, that can be worth casting to because it can hold a fish or 2. And, again, like I said, any break in the surrounding, doesn't matter what it is, piece of electrical tape, types of rocks, whether it be a tree, whether it be a depth contour, all of that stuff can be something that a fish can relate to, and it's something that can be worth pursuing. And it's based on personal preference and experience, right? Um, I'm always going to cast at a transition change if I'm fishing artificial lures. If I am fishing with, live bait or with anything like that, I'm gonna put 1 rod by that transition. I might have 1 or 2 off to the sides in either direction, or if there's a tree, you know, 20 yards to the right, there's a transition in the middle somewhere, and then there's a log jam to the other direction, then I'm gonna put 1 on all 3 of those spots. I'm not gonna just cast them all towards the tree. I'm not gonna cast them all towards a single boulder. I'm gonna spread them out. And finding things like that, 1, it allows you to present your bait to potentially more fish, but it sets you up for, better area coverage, which is also good because again, as we go to a little bit when it comes to patterns, these fish will do there's always be outliers. There's always a couple of fish that just kinda do what they want, right, just like people, but for the most part, fish are gonna do pretty much the same thing once that pattern is established, whether it be from the season, whether it be from the weather that day, whether it be from the wind, whatever the factors will be, they're gonna form a pattern. Most fish are gonna follow that pattern. Brings me to the next point, current. Current is the main driver of, besides, I say weather, probably weather and current are probably the 2 biggest factors in, determining what bait do. Bait being crayfish, bait being minnows, bait being worms. Worms, if it's sunny and hot, worms are not gonna be by the surface, they're gonna be deep in the ground trying to stay cool. If it's raining, though, they're coming up to the surface, they're getting washed into the lake. Um, Not that they're never gonna be in the lake in the sun, but that you'll see more often, more of them getting washed up in the water, over streams, picked up by birds, if it's getting close to rain because they can't survive underground if it's raining, they'll drown. So, knowing that, obviously, if it's possibly gonna rain, you can have not only the current of the rain going by gravity from shore to but then also you're gonna have, river current, which all river current is, literally, is where the water starts and it starts going downhill because every force continues until a greater force stops it, right? Gravity's gonna pull this water down into this headwater, what it's called. The very beginning of the river is called the headwater, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes until you get down to something like the Mississippi River where it's miles wide. Uh, that gravity is what the source of that current is, and it isn't the only thing that can cause current, right? So you have the oceans, right? Well, oceans obviously don't have headwaters, but the wind can affect the ocean currents. Um, Tectonic plates, which is that's a whole nother ballgame. I don't want to get too deep in that 'cause I'm not an expert on that at all. Uh, I am mostly a freshwater fisherman, but also I'm not a scientist when it comes to geology, um, the way the Earth's surface works. But when those plates shift, that's where you get, monsoon stuff like that. Is these giant waves that are caused by force from the Earth's crust moving. Long story short, right? So that can cause current also, and you see that a lot, like the on jetties where these waves are crashing into it. You're gonna have one side where there's a ton of roughed up water and it's rushing by, but then you're gonna have this break in the current, and then you're gonna have fish that are gonna be on that downstream side, down current side, where it's slacker water feeding off the things that are getting either pushed over the jetty or across the end of the jetty. This works for wing wall dams. This works for boulders, trees, anything that breaks up that current. Anything that breaks up that current can potentially hold fish. Whether it's a boulder, whether it's a tree, whether it's a piece of duct tape. I mean, literally anything that can possibly change the way the current is flowing or break up that structure of that area can hold a fish. Now, one thing I will point out, if you are fishing in a river or something that is wind swept really hard, like the wind's blowing really hard, if you see it hitting an object, you're gonna see a swirl for the most part, or a seam. You get either eddy or steam, and what that is the current's getting disturbed so much that if you're getting an eddy, it's gonna be a swirl, right? And it's just gonna be like a little tunnel where so it's constantly spinning, it's gonna constantly feed food into that, it's gonna constantly spin there. Fish will sit there by that and pick out food as it goes by. But then you also have seams where if it's something that's hitting a little more, uh, perpendicular, you're gonna have pretty much it's like a straight line rather than having that swirl, it's gonna be usually it's gonna be more, um you see there's a lot more where, like, 2 currents meet, 2 bodies of water meet, like, the creek is feeding into the river, probably gonna be a stream there, whereas you're gonna see more eddies and stuff where it's current to slack water, being no current at all. Current to slack water is gonna produce eddies, current to current or body of water to body of water, that's going to produce seams, and what these do, again, is just hold bait, congregate bait, and provide a spot for fish to, uh, come in and ambush prey. Or food or find chunks of dead fish or whatever, right? Because all that stuff that current is gonna carry all that stuff there, and it's gonna be deposited in those areas, for the fish to pick up. Morning, Evan, hope you're doing good, buddy. Welcome to the show. Going over basic watercraft, I mean, absolute basic watercraft. As your name implies, I know you know all this stuff already, but I still appreciate you coming and checking it out. Uh, Again, I hope you guys are fishing today after this. Obviously, I'm glad you're here. If you are fishing, I wanna know what you're fishing about, so please let me know in the comments below what you're going fishing for today and what your goal is. I wanna know. The other thing about current, wind. Wind can do it just as much as water can. Wind obviously can be the beginning of current. For some things, it could be the beginning source, but on especially smaller ponds or smaller lakes, uh, wind can mean the difference between where the bait is not. If you have a really, really strong wind, it's gonna move that plankton, which is what minnows feed on, across the water. And so you're gonna see those bait fish follow that food, obviously, because 'cause they're hungry too, right? And then as it goes, your bigger fish are gonna follow the smaller fish. And so keeping that in mind, that's yet another thing that you can keep an eye out for to find out where fish are. Typically speaking, you're gonna hear people say, "Hey, go fish the wind-blown bank." You're gonna see water that's disturbed, water that's muddy from the waves crashing because 'cause you're gonna get waves at that point. And the bait fish are gonna be in there, and then obviously the big fish are chasing them. Now, again, this isn't something that is a hardcore science, it's something that it seems to be a tendency, again, going on with those patterns, and using that information to put you on more fish and hopefully around bigger fish. And again, patterns, this can be literally as simple as, hey, I'm always going to fish a weed line in summer in the morning, or hey, I'm always going to do this. And what feeds these tendencies of what you're going to do is going to be based on what the fish are doing. If you know that, hey, early in the morning, if I'm fishing a river with a lot of rocks, I'm going to drift my bait past these big rocks because there's probably going to be fish there eating. Whereas it's hotter in the day, the sun's out brighter. You're looking for those deeper holes where those fish are going to nestle down into and try to avoid predators and avoid being seen and spotted, but they still want to be able to feel safe. And again, the structure, right? Holes, rocks, uh, in the case of minnows in a bucket, duct tape. I mean, electrical. Literally anything that breaks up the surroundings is something that fish can relate to. What makes one piece of structure or one piece of uh, object that breaks up the surrounding better than another is going to be based on whether or not current is feeding the area or not. Obviously, if you're fishing on a lake, you might have the wind feeding, providing a current. Obviously, the bigger the bodies of water, I'm not gonna say the less of the wind impacts it, but there's you gotta think about there's so much water, and the bigger the lake, the deeper the water is. All that, there's so much water that will not be touched by that wind. That I personally don't feel like it makes as big of a difference. But on smaller bodies of water, such as ponds and stuff like that, that wind is gonna be a huge factor. Because obviously, if the wind's blowing by a tree and is blowing stuff off the tree into the water, well, then you have another food source, right? And it's gonna be next to that shade line, and that shade line is gonna be something that breaks up that area, right? And then if you do have a fallen tree per se, or whether it be a fresh tree or an old tree, typically speaking, older trees have the leaves falling off, and the newer trees still have the green leaves on it. For the most part, an older tree is gonna hold more fish than a new tree because it's been there longer, right? Fish have been able to find it and relate to it. But by having that there, if the wind's blowing by, well, yeah, you might blow off some stuff on top, but if the wind's beating it really, really hard, well, it's gonna be pushing the bait into that tree too. Well, then all of a sudden you have the predator fish that are either already in the tree from relating to it or cruising by and find it. Oh, hey, the bait is relating to this tree. I'm gonna relate to this tree because I'm hungry. And just a way to put yourselves into high percentage areas. And even if you're looking at just spots to fish, even if you look at if you have a say you're at a beach or you're on a lake, right? You have this long stretch of shoreline that you have available to fish, but you have this one spot where it either cuts in or it jets out into the main body of water. Well, that is a breakup. If it's coming in, you have 2 points where there could be fish. If it's going out, though, you have 1. Now, I will say, based on my preference, based on what I've seen, the ones that cut out into the lake are better than the ones that cut in, but depending on how big the cut in is, it gives you 2 points that jut out into the main body of water, right? So, I mean, it's definitely something worth considering and checking out, um, because, again, it can hold fish and hold bait and be affected by wind and current and whatnot, and provide fish a spot that they feel safe, comfortable, and relaxed in. So, again, patterns is just something that you can repeat and be productive with. Again, if you fish for a couple years and you're like, "Oh, my topwater frog bite on these lily pads at this lake always seem to be better in June than they are in January," well, then obviously you fish it in June and you fish something else in January, right? "Hey, I'm fishing for catfish. They seem to bite seems to be better at night." Well, in the summer, well, then I'm fishing at night in the summer. If it's better in the day in the winter, it's probably better for you as a person as well. It's probably gonna be cold, it's probably warmer in the day, but the fish are feeling the same way. So, things like that, things that you just keep in mind and, uh, look at and be like, "Oh, hey, I can repeat this. It's something that is repeatable, and I can say that it's repeatable because it's been productive." And by having that one, it's up your confidence, which is gonna be huge, and you hear it all the time in bass fishing, "Fish your confidence bait, fish your confidence bait," or that applies to all aspects of fishing. and it applies to all species of fish, not just bass, catfish. Obviously, catfish, if I'm fishing for catfish, 9 times out of 10, I'm using skipjack here in Tennessee because that is a main food source, and I fish near the current on the main river. If I'm fishing up on the lake, I'm gonna have some skipjack coming out. I'm probably gonna toss out some bluegill or something else as well. There are other fish in the water and things. The skipjack are very, very current oriented. They need a lot of oxygen. They move around a lot like crazy. So when I'm fishing the slower bodies of waters, such as the lake, where it might be a little bit of current, I do fish reservoirs, which are a little bit different because the river technically runs through them. So there's always a little bit of current, right? But in the summer where they're not pulling a lot of water through the dams, there's less current. And so at that point, it treats it more like a lake. Skipjack are gonna be crazy active, moving around like crazy, trying to find the cooler, more oxygenated water. The bluegill are everywhere. So, because of that, they become my confidence bait in the summer, simply because, 1, they're more available, but 2, uh, it fits better for the situation I'm fishing in. Yeah, it's a pattern. It's a pattern I've developed. And then, in terms of bass fishing, I'm gonna do more, active, quicker moving baits in the summer. I'm gonna do slower, more finesse baits is what a lot of people call them. Yeah, something that moves a little bit slower, something that tries to, be a little more reactionary on the bite as opposed to something that just is there, right? Morning, Stuart. Hope you're doing good, buddy. Hope you're out there catching fish. If you are fishing, if you, aren't yet, I hope you are going to get the chance to go, and I do hope that if you do go, you can go. We are covering, uh, basic watercraft. We had the absolute basic level talking about current, talking about structure, talking about patterns, and how you can develop the ability to put yourself on high percentage areas and put yourself on more fish, but higher quality fish. But yeah, so back to patterns. If you have something that works, obviously keep throwing it. If you have something that doesn't work, adjust it. Why doesn't it work? Does it not work because of the time of year it is? Does it not work because of how big the bait is, how fast it's moving? Does it not work because it doesn't make sense? I mean, there's always gonna be outliers, right? There are people that catch catfish on soap. There are people that catch bass on chicken liver. I mean, it's not something that is common. I wouldn't argue that it's a pattern because it's not, in my opinion, not, but it happens often enough that it's at least worth trying. And I'm never gonna downplay people for trying stuff other than obviously I don't say proven soap because I feel like it's polluting the water. But, you know, what can you do, right? I know back in the day, people used to use WD-40, on lures. I know nowadays some people use, PAM cooking spray, the olive oil spray or the butter spray, just to add a little bit of, something, something to their stuff, you know, and that goes down to people using scents and attractors and stuff too, right? Like, people you take a concoction of random things, grind it all up into a paste, and all of a sudden you have a stink bait, right? People use cheese, people use blood, and a lot of those are coming from catfish, but then in the bass fishing world, you have people that are using crawfish, shad scented stuff, anise scented stuff, garlic scented stuff, and all these things can be utilized in forming these patterns. Like, for me, again, something different, right? In the spring, when I'm fishing for smallmouth bass or white bass, I'm gonna be throwing something like a tiny fluke on a jig head. It's gonna be a minnow color one, but I'm gonna dip the tail in a garlic scented chartreuse. I do that for 2 reasons. 1, I think it helps because that water is not as clean at that point of year because the water is rushing, it's flooding more with all the rain, and they haven't brought the full pool yet, which again is a reservoir term. I can tell you guys about that later if you're interested. Um, but that murkier water, that bright color gives them something to see and hone in on. It's got that garlic scent, so it gives a little something else for them to find. But on top of that, the threadfin shad that we have in the area that are growing up at that point, they have a little bit of yellow on them. So again, I'm also going back to my rule of match the hatch. If you want to be successful, you have to take these basic concepts, these things you learn over time, and these things people tell you, try them out. You know, for me, I have pretty much a pattern I'm gonna do for every species of fish that I normally fish for. If it's a species I haven't fished for yet or I've not been successful with, I'm literally trying anything and everything until I find something that works so I can develop my own pattern to be able to target those fish as well. And that literally goes for anything and everything with fluke fishing. Try everything and form a pattern. So by forming this pattern, again, taking the 3 things into account when it comes to watercraft. You look at the water, you're looking for structure, you're looking for current, you're looking for to form a pattern. By taking those concepts and putting them into your fishing, I can guarantee you that you're gonna have better success in catching fish, not only in quantity of fish, but also in the quality of fish. By presenting yourself I'm sorry, putting yourself in high percentage areas and presenting to the fish with high percentage baits, forming that pattern, making it so it's repeatable and productive. Eventually, you will catch the fish of your dreams. Double Hook David, how's it going, buddy? Hope you're doing fantastic. Hope you're out fishing today or gonna be soon. I know you, I think you said the crappie are starting to slow down because of the heat, but hope you're still out going out there and at least trying to catch some fish. But now we're at the point of the show where if you got any questions, I'm looking for questions. Anybody got any questions or comments? I'd love to talk about it or hear about it or read about it. Uh, it is pretty much everything I was gonna cover today. I've been trying to keep the episodes a little bit shorter so people can actually watch them on the drive to work or whatever. That last episode last week, I really should have broke that up into a couple episodes. That thing was long and massive. It was a lot to cover. And I know I missed some stuff. I may have to do another follow-up one on that at some point, but it's all good. And again, if you're new here, I appreciate you coming in, checking it out. If you're checking us out from Facebook, good morning. I appreciate you guys checking it out there as well. We are streaming this to Facebook and YouTube every weekend, uh, either Saturday or Sunday based on our work schedule. I do hope to be better about posting the schedule ahead of time. I know this upcoming one is going to be on Sunday. The one after that is going to be on Saturday. But uh, I will put it in the community page. And I will put it on I'll try to put it on the calendar on Facebook if I can remember to do that, and I'll be doing announcements throughout the weeks to bring it up. What's going on tonight? Tonight is what? Today is Sunday. Oh, you know what? Yes. For those of you who are tuning in, if you, have never heard of Avid Fisherman, he has a YouTube channel as well, and we'll actually be on there on his episode tonight. Uh, Mrs. Yak and I will both be on there doing an interview episode with him on his channel, The Avid Fisherman, and, that'll be at 7 PM Central, 8 PM Eastern. Yeah, it should be a good time. Hey, nothing wrong with pouring jig heads, man. You gotta have the gear, man. Gotta have the gear. I definitely need to get with you at some point, though. I need to get some more jigs made at some point. Definitely, I definitely wanna get some of those, crawfish style jigs tied before spring. Anthony, it's always gonna be 7 o'clock, buddy. It's the only time I can guarantee I can be on. Always gonna be 7 o'clock, whether it be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever, it's always gonna be 7 o'clock. It's always gonna be on the weekend, so it's always be either Saturday or Sunday. But, you know, it is what it is. That's what I'm doing the live streams, you know? Again, if you're catching this live stream on the replay, put hashtag replay in the comments, but if you are not and you're catching this on the, uh, actual podcast episode and I upload it, then great. Glad you guys are here. Uh, it is what it is. You know, I hope you guys can learn some stuff from this. That's the whole point of this. You know, the series is anyone can fish. I'm just trying to prove that anybody can be out there. It's not something that you can't do. It's not something that is restrictive or limiting. Anybody can do it. You just have to take these basic concepts and put them to use. And the idea is that I've been fishing for a long time. A lot of people I know have been fishing for a long time. I'm trying to take the knowledge that we have and put it in a form that you guys can understand and digest and immediately go out and cut down that learning curve. That way you guys can get out there and catch fish as fast as possible, and get on it and have a good time. Well, then quit waking up and go back to sleep. I appreciate you being here though, man. I really do. Hope you and your wife are doing well. Hope your kids are doing great. I know mine's waking up. I can hear her in the background, so it'll be time to play here soon. Uh, but yeah, I hope that everybody that's here is able to have a good time today. I hope they have a fantastic week. I hope that if you have a goal you're working on, I hope you're able to achieve it. I myself, I started a conscious effort to be better at eating, be better at myself. To what I'm been telling people is I'm trying to maintain where I'm being a better father figure or BFF for my daughter. Um, it's gonna be a daily grind. The goal is I want to make sure I'm around when she's 18 and she graduates high school, both from a health perspective, both mentally and physically. And I want to be the best father that I can for her. Yes, I am. Everybody who has a child, every man who has a child is gonna be a father, right? And if you and let me rephrase. If you are a father figure to a child, then you are a father, period. There is a difference between father and dad, but even though in my opinion, dad's considered the funner word, right? That's the better one everybody wants to be, right? That if that's what you want, and then that's determined by the child. The only way to become a dad, though, is to be a father figure in the first place, and we want to be a better father figure. All right, David, happy 50th birthday on Thursday. If you guys are tuning in, if you haven't met David from Double Hook Angling, he is a awesome individual. He is a uh, jig tying fanatic. He ties jigs. He goes crappie fishing a lot. He is a family man. Loves dogs. Loves his wife. Loves his kids. Uh, he fishes. You know, I was talking about how it doesn't restrict anybody. He fishes from a wheelchair. He fishes from a wheelchair, even in a kayak. Like he does not let anything stop him. He is literally walking proof that anybody can fish. Uh, and he catches fish. I mean, he all the time posting stuff on Facebook. He actually has a YouTube channel as well, Double Hook Angling, uh, where he does the live tying jigs on Fridays, and his Facebook page where he's always posting pictures of fish that him and his son catches. And he does fish a lot. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all public bodies of water, good to go. Maybe fish in private water, that's fine. Whatever floats your boat. Yeah, in his in his case, he's bullying proof that anybody can fish. I love that. I appreciate that, man. Anthony, take it easy. Breakfast, buddy. Eva says that DHA, double gangling, is the human version of the Cookie Monster. Yeah, doesn't let anything stop him for sure. If he wants to fish, fish. Just like the Cookie Monster, if he wants cookies, he's gonna keep. Yeah, no, David's a good friend of mine. I got the chance to finally meet him in person, and it was definitely an enjoyable trip. I look forward to doing it again sometime. And he's super cool dude. Evan's a super cool dude. I've not got to meet him in person yet, but I've fished with him on some streams a couple times. I fished a tournament that he ran a couple of times at this point, and I'm looking forward to being on his stream tonight with an interview session. Um, I'm under the is Robin gonna be there? I'm assuming she's gonna be there as well. Um, if so, that it should be a good show. I'm looking forward to that. My wife is too. In other news, when it comes to my world, when it comes to fishing, I finally got the lights for my kayak. I'm gonna start rigging that up. I'm I'm gonna try to have it ready for the tournament this upcoming weekend. I'm fishing in. It's the Kings of the I think it's called Kings of the Tennessee River or Champions of the Tennessee River. It's actually the second round of that tournament. The first one, Bobcat won it, so he has the Catfish Sumo belt that was provided to him, and he's gonna be trying to defend his title. I'm gonna try to take it home. I'm hoping to fish from the kayak again. Uh, Now that I finally got a catfish in the kayak a while back, I'm feeling a lot more confident and looking forward to that. And it's not that I've never caught catfish in the kayak, don't get me wrong, but I specifically this Hobie I bought, I've had it for 3 years, and until what, 4 months ago, something like that, I had never landed a catfish. Every time I got one of the edge, it broke off or it fell off or whatever, I dropped it. Was never able to get one on the boat, and I finally got one on the boat, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. Um, the kayaking hasn't been on a little bit of a hold for the most part. I was doing it a lot more often, obviously, hence the name Yak Shore. I do mostly kayak and bank fishing. Um, we do have a boat that we're working on, so hopefully start taking Shanna and my daughter out on that soon, and be the yaks on a yacht. But yeah, it's gonna be good. It's just a matter of putting things together and getting out there and using our patterns and our watercraft to get on the fish. I did have an outlaw. I kept it for my wife to have when I got the Hobie. She recently just sold it, though, so I no longer have the outlaw. It was a good kayak though. Um, but I decided I wanted one with the flip pedals, and then I got a good deal on that Hobie, so I ended up getting flip pedals. For those who don't know, make an absolute world of difference when it comes to kayaking, because you have your hands free to be able to fish while you're still moving across the water, or maintain a heading and current, or however you want to look at it. It's pretty nice. But yeah, I had the Outlaw 11.5. I bought it first because I wanted to be able to catch bigger fish in the kayak. I am a bigger guy, and it had a bigger weight capacity. It had a 400, I think it's 425-pound weight capacity. It had some built-in rod holders. It had a pretty good seat, but it also had the ability that if you wanted to, you could fit I think it was a 45 quart cooler in the spot where the seat went instead of the cooler instead. So you definitely had options with that kayak, which was nice, and it was stable enough you could stand on the fish. I did do that. Um, it is also the first kayak I flipped in. I found out in a hurry that you cannot use sit on top kayak on regular standard kayak launches. Uh, yeah, and I have videos of I have some after the fact videos of that where I saved a raccoon and was able to test him with that life jacket. I was trying to save my camera because I had planned on fishing all day, and I planned on fishing at the end of this creek. Uh, so I turned off my phone or GoPro when I went to launch the kayak. So I did not get the actual flipping, unfortunately, but you can see some of the aftermath. And it was pretty amusing. I did end up breaking a rod. I think I broke my ultralight rod, which was kind of sad. I really like that rod. Uh, but it is what it is. Got to do things. Got to have fun. Get out there and do stuff. Put your put your skills to the test. Put your knowledge to the test, and all that good stuff. All right. Well, with that being the case, since the comments have slowed down, I'm going to go ahead and call it for today. Thank you again, everybody, for coming in. Again, if you catch us on a live stream, we plan on being this next live stream is going to be on Sunday, this upcoming weekend. And then the week after that'll be Saturday. I will be posting that on both of those dates on the community tab shortly. And I'm gonna try to put them on the Facebook calendar as well for those tuning in from Facebook. Um, Thanks for coming in. Uh, on this episode of the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast, we covered watercraft at the basic level, how you between each structure, which just has to be a breakup of the area surrounding, and by using current and by watching current, being able to decide on highly producing areas, high percentage areas where you can put your baits in and hopefully get on not only more fish but bigger fish. And by doing that, consistently being able to produce a pattern that is both repeatable and productive, uh, so you guys can keep doing it more in the future. Again, my name is Anthony. You're watching the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody. Take it easy. Congrats on the weight loss, David. Get out there and do it, man. Put that phone on that boat. Let's do it. Do it. Do it. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. I'll see y'all later. See y'all next week. Be safe. And you go fishing. Get